Jared Leto is one of the most popular and successful actors and musicians of our time. Depending on how old you are, you probably know him from either the Suicide Squad movie or from the band 30 Seconds to Mars. Yeah, those are the same guy. If you're a fan of movies, you've probably been watching Jared Leto your whole life and not even realized it. When Christian Bale acts as his coworker Paul Allen in American Psycho, it's Jared Leto. When the main character gets angry in Fight Club and says, "I felt like destroying something beautiful," and bashes that guy's face in, that's Jared Leto. In Blade Runner 2049, when the villain starts talking about how he's basically God and you kind of believe him for a second, it's Jared Leto. What if I told you this same guy has been spending the last several years building up a cult? Those are his words, not mine. It's a self-proclaimed cult where hundreds of people pay to visit a private island to spend time with Jared and do other various activities. Everything takes place on a private island in Croatia that Jared calls Mars Island. Tickets to joining the fund cost anywhere from $1,700 for the basic experience where you stay in a tent, all the way up to over $7,000 for a more comfy VIP lodge. When I stumbled across these videos and images, my curiosity was piqued. Is Jared playing up the cult angle of this gathering for publicity, or is there something more sinister going on here? And what actually happens on Mars Island? Almost every cult is centered around one person, the leader. Their ideas and philosophy shape the direction of the group and usually end up influencing or controlling everything they do. So if I was going to figure out if this was a real cult or not, I had to learn about their leader. Jared Leto was born outside Shreveport, Louisiana in 1971. His parents divorced at a young age, and his father took his own life when Jared was only 8 years old. Jared and his older brother Shannon ended up living with their grandparents on their mom's side of the family and moving around to different cities because their grandfather was in the Air Force. Despite this, Jared and Shannon's mother was active in their lives and took them to Massachusetts, where she joined the hippie movement. She encouraged the brothers to be active in the arts, and they got interested in music and creative expression. As Jared grew up, he became increasingly interested in visual arts and film, and attended a handful of different universities. Like so many artistic minds before him, Jared didn't like being tied down to one place or one school. His young adulthood was spent moving around the country, meeting different people, creating things, soaking up knowledge, and then moving on. The bohemian lifestyle wasn't some idealistic story to fantasize about for him. He wanted to live it. In 1992, Jared moved to Los Angeles to pursue a career in directing, planning to take on acting gigs on the side whenever he could get them. He got his first big break on the teen drama My So-Called Life. Jared plays a character named Jordan Catalano, who's a generic bad boy character, with good looks and a small brain. It only ran for one season of 19 episodes, but fans loved it, and it's become a staple of mid-90s culture pieces. Jared's success in this role helped him kick off his career and land a handful of roles in the 90s. Even at the beginning of his career, his impeccable genetics and charisma were beaming through the screen. But Jared was never interested in making a career out of being a teen heartthrob actor. At this point in his career, he could have taken easy roles and carved out a name for himself in the pop drama scene of the 90s and 2000s. But like a bird in the winter, the road less traveled was calling to him, and he didn't want to stop flying yet. In 1998, Jared and his brother Shannon started the band 30 Seconds to Mars. Always against the idea of resting on the laurels of his past success, Jared didn't allow his relative fame in the film industry to be used in the band's promotion. If the band was to succeed, he wanted it to be because the music was good, not because he was already popular. The music they made was high energy, aggressive, alternative rock with dark lyrics and serious themes. And it turned out the music was good. The band landed a contract with one of the biggest record labels in the world, EMI. In 2005, they released the album A Beautiful Lie, which was massively successful commercially and critically. I can personally tell you every guy at my high school blasted this album in the locker room and at parties, and it dominated the airwaves of rock and alternative radio stations for years. Jared didn't put his acting career on hold when the band started to get popular, but he did become increasingly selective about the acting roles he took. When Jared left LA to shoot a new movie, the band followed, recording songs and playing shows all over the world. The brothers were still living out their nomad artistic lifestyle, but they just happened to be massively successful at the same time now. Jared's music career wasn't all smooth sailing though. In 2008, as the band was recording their third album, they told EMI that they wanted out of their contract. According to Jared, even though the band had sold over 2 million records by then, they hadn't been paid a penny. Even worse, the current contract at the time said the band owned EMI 3 more records, and the band had also signed over their ownership of the master copies of their music to the label. As a side note, if any of you viewers get into the music industry, do not do this. The label will explain to you that if they own your music, they'll be more motivated to promote it and make you more money. Makes sense, right? What actually happens is you become a cog in a massive machine designed to make the record label insane amounts of profit, and meanwhile, you're not even allowed to own the things you create. This used to be really standard in the music industry, and it's also why copyright claims on YouTube almost exclusively come from the three big record labels: Universal Music Group, who owns EMI, Warner Brothers Media, and Sony. These three companies own the vast majority of all the music on Earth, and reportedly are now making upwards of $19 million a day from streaming. The power and reach of these companies is unprecedented, and the 30 Seconds to Mars contract dispute is just the tip of the iceberg. So instead of working out a deal with the band, EMI claimed that 30 Seconds to Mars owed them $1.4 million, and then slapped them with a $30 million lawsuit for breach of contract. After almost a year of legal proceedings, the band and EMI finally settled and signed a renegotiated contract, and 30 Seconds to Mars continued to put out successful music. Jared was and still is interested in dark stories, and took increasingly difficult roles as his acting career progressed. He got interested in method acting, which, if you're not familiar, is when an actor tries to pull real and raw emotion into their performance. Oftentimes this emotion is from the actor's own experiences, or from imagining the experiences of the character they're playing and working to get into that headspace. At the extreme end of method acting, actors will live their real lives as closely to the character they're playing as they can. In 2012, Leto landed the role of Rayon in Dallas Buyers Club. Rayon was a transgender woman afflicted with disease and addiction, and Jared lost 30 pounds to play the role, shaved his eyebrows, and waxed his entire body. He said he completely stopped eating to lose the weight quickly and refused to break character when on set. Jared went on to win multiple awards for this performance, and his dedication to method acting didn't end there. In 2015, Jared was cast for the movie Suicide Squad as the Joker. The movie got a lot of backlash before it even released because some of the promotional photos looked like, well, this. Undeterred by the questionable costume and marketing decisions, Jared went all in with his method acting for this production. Viola Davis, who plays Amanda Waller in the movie, said, "He did some bad things, Jared Leto did. He gave some really horrific gifts. He had a henchman who would come into the rehearsal room, and the henchman came in with a dead pig and plopped it on the table, and then he walked out. And that was our introduction to Jared Leto." But Jared's antics didn't stop there. On set, no one was allowed to call him Jared, and he only responded to Mr. J. He sent everyone in the cast a box full of extremely weird gifts, and he even sent Margot Robbie a live rat, which she tried to keep as a pet until her landlord found out. Most of the cast and crew seemed disturbed by Jared, but even though the film ended up being pretty widely disliked, the general consensus is that Jared's performance is good, even though it's very brief. Around the same time, the band's fan base was really starting to pick up steam. Jared started calling fans the Echelon, and in 2015 he set up a summer camp retreat for superfans in Malibu called Camp Mars. Fans came in droves to stay in tents, listen to the band, and take part in various group activities. But even in this early stage of the Echelon, people were already starting to question if this was the beginning of a cult. Little did they know, Camp Mars would soon be ramped up to a massive overseas production. In January 2019, Jared announced that Camp Mars would be moving to a private island off the coast of Croatia called Mars Island. The website promised yoga, paddleboarding, 2 full-length concerts from the band, as well as community and wellness-focused activities. But most importantly, it offered the opportunity to hang out with the leader of the Echelon, Jared Leto. The pricing was extravagant, and that, combined with the relative remoteness of the island, meant that the people most likely to come would be absolute superfans. I mean, Echelon members. At first, the pictures and videos being posted from the event looked pretty normal. People riding the ferry to the island, doing arts and crafts, enjoying the coast. You know, normal private island stuff. But then, like a boat with a rusty rudder, the event took a weird turn. Pictures and videos started popping up with everyone on the island wearing white, and Jared walking around like a stereotypical cult leader with hordes of followers walking around with him. The internet went crazy speculating what was actually going on at Mars Island. The band fully supported this narrative, tweeting that yes, this is a cult, and they even released merch that bragged about it. But after an absolute firestorm of articles and videos confidently stating that this was a real cult, I felt like I hadn't seen any real evidence of sinister or cult-like activities or rituals happening on the island. So, like the curious dog I am, I started to dig. First off, the island isn't actually named Mars Island. It's named Obanyan Island. It's a small private island off the coast of Šibenik, a cozy tourist destination and cultural hub on the Croatian Adriatic coast. The next thing I discovered was that Jared hasn't purchased the island outright, like many have speculated. There's an existing resort there that operates year-round, and there's even an option to rent out the entire island on their website. One article claimed that the island has 1,000 beds, but the official website says it can comfortably hold 700 people. It's also interesting to see photos of the island from when the echelon isn't there. It's obvious the band brings a lot of the activities, decorations, and set pieces with them for Camp Mars. But what about the cult activity? To get the real scoop about what actually happened at Camp Mars, I reached out to people who actually went. All of these people had posted pictures and videos of them at the camp and replied to the band's tweets asking them to share their experiences, so I know that they actually went. I've blurred their profile pictures and usernames to protect their identities. This is what I learned. Here's what one echelon member told me when I asked her if anything cult-like happened on the island. It was 100% for fun. That photo that was everyone in white was set up as a cult photo as a joke because fans of Mars and the band are aware the internet thinks the camp things are a cult gathering. The whole "this is a cult" slogan was put on merch for a while back in the mid-2000s as a thing because it was a fan-said thing, and Jared knows that people follow his band all over the world. It's pretty cool to see people from all over the world and make friends. One of the photographers, Maddie Vogel, was taking photos of us diving off the rocks because it's good content, but we were all just having fun. Mars played 2 shows in the span of the weekend, one of which was the White Night, which was just wear white stuff because they had black lights and it looked so cool, and because the band was all in white for This Is War 10 show. I wore whatever usually, it was hot, so summer stuff. Then I said, so it sounds like the band and the promoters just used the cult label because it's a buzzword and nothing actually cultish happened? She replied, completely. You have to be some kind of super fan to travel that far for a band. They probably do use it because it's a buzzword and no one understands, which is kind of dumb, but no, it wasn't any kind of super sinister cult. Nothing cultish happened at all. Like I said, the picture we took in all white, Jared literally said, let's look like a cult because it's funny. So he's clearly aware of the way the internet and random media outlets view it. Another Camp Mars attendee I talked to told me it was like Woodstock but without drugs. She also expressed concern that the events being misrepresented on YouTube and in the media. I asked her what are some of the things that the media is getting wrong, and she had this to say. Well, everything. A sect, Jared Leto a cult leader? We might like his music, his voice, and think he's pretty, but we all laugh about it. That's why he does merch and writes, yes, this is a cult, to laugh at people who tell that. A Satanist? He might be. Maybe, who knows. A little selfish, but he only tries to tell people to do good actions towards others. And that's why he calls his fans a family, because in a family, you help each other, no matter what. And he also uses it probably because it's very useful for his business if he has a large family buying his music and clothes they sell about the band. We are not stupid, we understand everything. I mean, me and my friends. There are some blinded people like everywhere, but most of the people has open eyes and see the man for all of his good and all of his bad sides, but still the good is so much that we follow the band and the music. I then asked her what some of her favorite activities on the island were and if she could clarify the no drugs policy for me. Here's what she said. It's clearly explained. No drugs, no alcohol, and no weapons allowed. Everyone I talked to said similar things about their time on the island, and I realized as I was talking to all of these people that my perception of Jared was shifting faster than a sandbar in a hurricane. He's not a cult leader, he's a marketing genius. In addition to all these people telling me basically the same story independently, there are also other reasons that there's no way this can be a real cult. The fact that cell phones and cameras are allowed on the island with 700 attendees makes it extremely unlikely that anything sinister happened, and no one took a photo or video or even tweeted about it. And who ever heard of a cult with no alcohol, drugs, or weapons? Jared's not starting a religion, he's just doing yoga with his fans on a private island. But what about the pricing? At the very least, he's financially ripping off his fans, right? Well, I would argue no. There was one other all-inclusive luxury trip hosted on a private island, and prices for that were $500 to $12,000, and it was an absolute disaster. There was a never-ending slew of photos and videos coming out of Fire Festival showing how terrible everything was, from the accommodations to the food to people fighting for supplies like cavemen. And it wasn't even a real private island. It was just a nasty strip of rocky land next to a sandals resort. Compared to Mars Island, not a single fan I talked to had a single complaint. So instead of calling out Jared Leto for being a cult leader, I'd like to petition Jared to partner up with Ja Rule and reboot Fire Festival. It seems he's the perfect man for the job, and I'm honestly impressed with the execution of the Mars Island event. And it seems like the perfect way for a bohemian method actor and multi-platinum artist to connect with his fans. In summary, no. This is not a cult. So, thanks for watching, and stay weird, internet.